That diesel truck costs $12,000 more than the gas one parked right beside it. Same crew cab, same long bed, same fifth-wheel hitch, same trailer waiting to be hooked up behind either one. The only difference is the engine, and the salesman tells you the diesel pays for itself down the road. Your brother-in-law with the power stroke swears by it over Thanksgiving dinner every single year, usually right before dessert. The towing forums are split right down the middle, and everyone in the thread is shouting past each other, quoting numbers nobody bothered to check. One thread insists the diesel paid for itself in 3 years flat. The very next reply says that's nonsense, and posts a fuel receipt proving the opposite. Nobody in either thread is lying exactly. They're just each looking at a slice of the math instead of the whole thing. This is the honest math. Run today, with today's fuel prices. For someone who is going to hook up a fifth wheel and haul it across real miles, not just admire it parked in the driveway. And the answer is not the one either side of that argument wants to hear. Let's set the stage properly, because this is not a small decision the way choosing a stereo package is. You are picking the one vehicle that hauls your home away from home, sometimes across 3 mountain ranges chasing the grandkids, sometimes just 20 minutes down the road to the lake for the weekend. Buy the wrong engine here, and you are not stuck with an uncomfortable seat or a radio you never learned to use. You are stuck with the wrong truck for years, and you tend to find that out the hard way, halfway up a mountain pass with a heavy trailer pushing on your bumper and a line of impatient traffic behind you. That is why this fight refuses to die on every RV and towing forum in the country. One side insists the gas engine is cheaper to buy, cheaper to fix, and modern enough now that the mileage gap barely matters anymore. The other side insists diesel torque is what a loaded fifth wheel wants, and that anyone towing seriously is being penny-wise and pound-foolish by choosing gas. Both sides are half right, and neither one has ever run this math past their own comment section. So let's run it properly, together, right now, with a calculator instead of an opinion. Picture the rig this math has to survive, not a hypothetical one. A popular 40-foot triple-axle fifth wheel with a full kitchen and a king bed slide tips the scales loaded somewhere north of 13,000 pounds. It's a small house riding on the hitch, and it changes how both engines behave the moment you leave the driveway. Both trucks can technically tow that weight, on paper, with room to spare. The question is which one tows it the way you'll be driving it week after week, on the roads you already know from memory, for the years you plan on keeping it, and on the one unfamiliar mountain pass that eventually shows up on every retiree's route sooner or later. Start with the number everyone circles back to first: fuel. A gas-powered Super Duty pulling a loaded fifth wheel through hill country tends to land somewhere around 9 miles to the gallon, based on actual owners logging actual trips with a loaded trailer behind them, not the optimistic numbers printed in a brochure. The diesel version, same route, same weight class, comes in closer to 12.5. That gap looks huge sitting on a spreadsheet, and it's the whole reason the diesel argument still shows up at family dinners. But miles per gallon is not what shows up on your bank statement at the end of the month. Cost per mile is what matters, and the two numbers tell a different story once you multiply them out. Regular gasoline is running close to $3.90 a gallon nationally this week. Diesel is sitting near $5 flat, and that gap between the two fuels has been widening all year, not shrinking the way it used to when diesel and gas traded places more evenly. A year ago, that gap was closer to 75 cents. Now it's pushing past $1, and every cent it widens quietly erodes whatever fuel savings case diesel still has left, whether or not the person selling you the truck has bothered to update their pitch. Divide it all out, and the gas truck costs roughly 43 cents in fuel for every mile it tows that trailer. The diesel costs roughly 40 cents, 3 cents a mile. It's the entire fuel advantage everyone on those forums has been shouting about, and it is a lot smaller than most owners assume once diesel gets this pricey relative to gas at the pump. There's a cost almost nobody puts a number on: And it's the second most common complaint sitting in the comments under every gas versus diesel comparison video ever posted. Diesel exhaust fluid is not optional, and it is not free. A jug of it at a truck stop runs somewhere between $6 and $10 a gallon, and a working diesel engine burns through roughly 1 gallon of that fluid for every 50 gallons of diesel fuel it consumes. That sounds small sitting on a shelf at the truck stop next to the windshield fluid, until you are towing 5,000 miles a year and topping off that jug every few thousand miles, forever. For as long as you own the truck, in every kind of weather, at every truck stop that happens to have it in stock that day. Fold that steady drip of cost into the ledger, and the diesel's tiny fuel cost edge does not just shrink. It disappears completely. Add diesel exhaust fluid, or DEF, to the diesel side of the math, and gas and diesel land within a penny or two of each other, per mile, at today's prices, before either truck has covered a single hard mile in the mountains. Here is the number that should end the forum argument for good, the one this whole video was built around. Take that $12,000 sticker difference and try to pay it back purely out of fuel and DEF savings, at today's prices, and the math says you would need to tow that fifth wheel for roughly 600,000 miles before the diesel breaks even against the gas truck. 600,000 miles is enough to drive around the entire planet, at the equator, about 24 times over, still towing the trailer the whole way. If that number surprised you as much as it surprised us the first time we ran it, hit subscribe right now, because this channel runs that same unflinching math on every big-ticket purchase retirees are weighing, boats, RVs, and trucks alike. That is not a typo, and this channel has no reason to make either engine look bad. Independent owners and dealer buyers' guides keep landing on that same order of magnitude whenever someone runs this by the numbers instead of eyeballing it. Most retirees towing a fifth wheel put on somewhere between 3,000 and 8,000 miles a year, chasing warm winters and grandkids' birthdays. At that pace, you would need to own the truck for close to a century to ever see that premium paid back at the pump. Nobody is doing that. If you bought a diesel purely because you believed the fuel savings would pay you back eventually, the math just told you, gently, that belief was wrong. Drop a comment with your own guess before reading this sentence twice. Did you think that break-even number would land under 100,000 miles? Or did some part of you already suspect it was this far out of reach? Before every gas truck owner starts celebrating in the comment section, there is a second ledger, and it does not tilt back in gas's favor the way you might hope. Maintenance on a diesel Super Duty tends to run higher than on the gas Godzilla over the same stretch of miles, mostly because diesel service intervals call for pricier fluids and heavier duty parts built for a harder job description. Owners who have run both trucks side by side report the diesel costing somewhere in the range of $2,000 to $3,000 more in routine upkeep over 200,000 miles, which eats back whatever the fuel math almost handed diesel. And then there is the scenario both camps like to pretend only happens on the other engine. A gas engine that misses an early valve warning can turn into an $8,000 to $15,000 repair bill, the kind that shows up out of nowhere on a Tuesday and ruins a retirement budget for the year. A diesel that ingests contaminated fuel can wreck an injection pump for a similarly ugly number, $8,000 to $12,000, sometimes climbing past that. Neither engine is bulletproof, no matter what the fellow at the campground tells you while he's backing his own rig in crooked and pretending it was intentional. Ask 10 owners of either engine which one is the reliable one, and you'll get 10 confident, contradictory answers, usually based on the one truck they personally owned and nothing beyond it. Both failure modes are rare, both are real possibilities, and both deliver about the same gut punch if your luck runs out on the wrong week. Usually the same week the extended warranty just expired, because that is how luck seems to work with big trucks. Once the true cost of ownership sits this close on fuel, on maintenance, and on the worst-case repair roll of the dice, the fuel and DEF case for buying diesel mostly falls apart on its own. So why does anyone still choose it? And why does this channel still recommend it for some buyers? Put all of that together and you get one clean sentence. At today's prices, gas and diesel cost almost the same per mile once DEF is counted in full. The diesel costs a little more to maintain, and both engines can hand you a nasty repair bill on a bad day. On paper, purely on cost, this comparison is closer to a coin flip than either camp on the forums wants to admit. So if the numbers alone don't settle it, something else has to. That something else is what the next few minutes are about, and it is the part of this decision the sticker price never mentions. Because the reason to pick a diesel for towing a fifth wheel was never about pennies per mile, and this is the part almost every comparison video online skips entirely. It is about what happens on the way down the mountain, not the way up. A diesel Super Duty comes standard with an exhaust brake, and that one feature lets the engine itself hold back 6 or 7 tons of truck and trailer on a long descent without you riding the brake pedal for 20 straight minutes and cooking your rotors down to the metal. A gas engine towing that same weight down that same grade is leaning almost entirely on the brakes and the transmission, and owners who have driven it both ways describe the difference as night and day, especially once a full-size fifth wheel is pushing from behind on a switchback. Range matters next. A diesel truck typically carries a bigger fuel tank and burns less per mile, which can roughly double how far you get between fill-ups. And when you are towing through stretches of interstate where the next truck stop pull-through with a diesel pump might be 90 miles up the road, that convenience is worth more than 3 cents a mile will ever be. Anyone who has circled a small-town gas station twice trying to find a pump and a lane long enough for a 40-foot trailer already knows exactly what that convenience is worth, in blood pressure if nothing else. Payload works in the opposite direction from what most buyers expect walking onto the lot. A diesel engine and everything supporting it adds real weight to the front axle, and that can eat directly into how much fifth wheel pin weight you are allowed to carry. So a heavier sounding truck does not automatically mean a more capable one once the trailer is loaded and hooked up. There's also the plain practical stuff nobody mentions until they own it. Gearing on the diesel tends to be tuned around that lower end torque, which is part of why it feels so relaxed climbing a grade with a fifth wheel behind it, while the gas engine leans on higher revolutions per minute and works noticeably harder to hold the same speed on the same hill. Whether you choose a single rear wheel or the wider dual rear wheel setup matters here too, since the dually adds stability under a high pin weight, but gives up a chunk of turning radius in return. And that trade-off shows up every single time you're threading a long rig into a tight campground loop, or a gas station pull-through built for cars, not fifth wheels. Plenty of owners who upgraded from single to dual rear wheels for the stability say the same thing afterward. They gained confidence on the highway and lost it back the moment they had to reverse into a narrow sight with people watching. A shorter, lighter, single rear-wheel gas truck squeezes into spots a long bed dually simply cannot fit into, diesel or not. And when it finally comes time to sell, a well-kept diesel Super Duty still commands a real premium on the used market over its gas sibling. So some of that $12,000 gap does come back to you at trade-in, years later. In a way, the fuel math never captures on its own. There is one more factor worth naming outright, and it has nothing to do with money at all. Confidence behind the wheel. If this is your first fifth wheel and your first real mountain pass with a trailer riding your bumper, the diesel's low-end torque and that exhaust brake make the learning curve noticeably gentler, because the truck is doing more of the hard work of holding speed and slowing down while you build the muscle memory for towing something this heavy. A buyer who has towed for 20 years and knows exactly how their rig behaves under braking might never notice the difference. A buyer doing this for the first time in retirement, with a trailer full of grandkids' bikes and a route that includes one mountain pass they've never driven before, often notices it on the very first descent, white knuckles and all. That first descent is where a lot of new tow vehicles get sold, used within a year, not because the truck failed, but because the driver never built the confidence to enjoy towing in the first place. That is not a number you can put in a spreadsheet, but it belongs in this decision alongside every dollar figure above it, and it is worth being honest with yourself about before you sign anything. So here is the honest verdict, and it lands nowhere close to where either camp expected walking into this video. If you are chasing fuel savings and fuel savings alone, keep the $12,000 in your pocket and buy the gas truck, because the math will not pay you back inside any towing lifetime. A retiree is going to log. Put that $12,000 toward a better suspension setup, a proper weight distribution hitch, or simply back into your retirement account, and you'll get more out of it than any fuel pump ever will. But if you are regularly pulling a heavy fifth wheel through mountain grades, if you need the range to skip gas stations out in the middle of nowhere, and if you can live with a tighter payload margin in exchange for that peace of mind on a steep descent, the diesel earns its keep on capability, not on your fuel receipts. And that capability carries value, even though it never shows up on a per-mile spreadsheet. That is the decision line running through this entire comparison. Fuel economics point toward gas. Towing physics on tough terrain point toward diesel. And your own routes, your own comfort level, and your own bank account are what decide which argument wins for your driveway, not a stranger on a forum who has never seen your trailer. Anyone telling you one engine is simply better for every retiree hooking up a fifth wheel is selling you a headline, not a truck. And now you know enough to spot that sales pitch from clear across the lot. If this is the kind of straight math you wish every dealer would run before you ever signed anything, subscribe, because we are about to run this same cost per mile breakdown on the next big rig decision retirees are wrestling with, and there is a good chance it saves you a lot more than $12,000. And drop a comment telling us which side of this argument you landed on before you clicked play, gas or diesel, because we read every one of them, and they shape which decision this channel tackles next. Either way, you now understand exactly what you are paying for at that dealership, down to the penny per mile, and that puts you ahead of nearly everyone else signing paperwork next to you this weekend. Print this math out if you have to, or just replay the last 2 minutes before you walk onto the lot, because the salesman is not going to run these numbers for you, and the forum is not going to agree on them either. You've now done both, and that is worth more than either engine badge on the fender.